How will all of these overnight cues impact our own markets? Our research team joins in with the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news as well. It was, as we mentioned, right, it was 4 straight weekly losses now for the Nifty, and there has been a lack of positive cues to take the index higher. And over the last 4 weeks, this 4-week losing streak that we have had, the Nifty is now down 3% during this week. What are some of these triggers that are keeping the markets jittery? The disappointing earnings that the IT sector has come out with, the mid cap and the small cap earnings, there have been on both sides. Reactions have been on both sides. The good earnings have been disproportionately rewarded, but the bad ones, the ones that have marginally missed expectations, they have been smashed. And IT, as we mentioned, right, the IT index is down 9% in the last 3 weeks itself. It continues to remain in focus today as well after the TCS announcement that came in last evening, and that will have a bearing on the entire sector going forward. There is a tariff deadline that is nearing. Japan has signed a deal. The European Union has signed a deal. We are still awaiting clarity on what happens to our deal, and every recovery that the indices are seeing is getting sold into. So as of now, we closed below the 50 DMA last week, but that is an important level to watch out for as well. What are some of the key triggers this week? Of course, we come out with auto sector comes out with numbers today. Defense companies come out with numbers this week. The defense companies have seen a very sharp run up. We saw results from Zen Technologies over the weekend. Any progress on the trade front that takes place? Auto sales data comes out on Friday. The PMI numbers come out on Friday. The Fed decision, and all the global decisions that we just spoke about, these are the important triggers for the market. Today itself, there are some important results. Look at BEL, IndusInd Bank, Masgao Dock, GAIL, UPL. So a slew of Nifty and broader market results that will be reported today. Among the key levels, we've broken below the 50 DMA, so now it brings you to the June 24th low, which is 24,824. That comes into play on the downside. The index made an intraday low of 24,802 on Friday, and we closed above that level. And below that 24,800 mark, the June 13th low of 24,703, that comes into play as well for the index. The Nifty Bank, despite the resilience shown by HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank, is still down 1,000 points from the record high that it had made earlier this month. And of course, the last week's low of 56,255 is an important level to watch out for on the Nifty Bank. So for now, a subdued start is what the GIFT Nifty is indicating. We'll watch out for any further developments over the course of what promises to be an action-packed day. Over to Upasana now, who will list out the stocks that you need to keep an eye out for. It's a long list. Upasana, good morning.
Good morning. First up, let me start with Kotak Bank. The weakness is seen in companies' asset quality as well as NIMs. Now, coming to NII, it saw a growth of about 6% on a YoY basis, while GNPAs, they surged by 6 basis points at 1.48% sequentially. Next up is Bank of Baroda. Overall mixed set of numbers. The net profit was up about 2%, while NII was down nearly about 1.4%. Petronet LNG also reported their numbers, volumes ahead of estimates, but overall it's a miss on EBITDA. Revenue down about 3.5%, operating margins stood at 9.7% versus 12.2% sequentially. SAIL reported numbers which were below our poll estimates. Revenue up about 8%, margins stood at 10.6% versus the poll of 13.3%. SBI Cards also reported their Q1 numbers. The net profit was down about 6.4%, while NII was up about 14%. Tata Chem reported decent set of numbers, but the commentary overall remains weak. Revenue down about 1.8% on a YoY basis, while PAT was up about 66% at 316 crores on a YoY basis. Sona Comstar, shareholders approved Priya Sachdev Kapoor's appointment as a non-executive director with 99% votes in her favor. Lot of stocks also in focus on the back of the order win. First up is BEL. The company bags order worth 2,000 crores from Ministry of Defence for air defence fire control radars for Indian Army. Next is RITES, also in focus, as the company receives letter of award from BEL worth nearly about 177 crores. And lastly, VA Tech Vibhag, also in focus, as company secures 380 crore order from Bangalore Water Supply and Sewage Board for facilities in Bengaluru. So all in all, lots of stocks on our radar today, and we'll be closely watching out for all of them.
Lots of stocks indeed. Upasana, thanks a lot for that update. And lastly, Mangalam joins in with cues from the FNO space. So Mangalam, a forgettable week again for the bulls, but what's the FNO data indicating?
Well, there was a fair amount of weakness that we saw on Friday as well. The Nifty actually ended virtually at the lower end of the trading range. And we saw the Nifty Bank, the mid-cap index, all of them. If you look at the broader markets, we had nearly 5 stocks in the red for every stock that gained. And that would have your portfolios bleeding a fair amount. What was actually interesting was the way the India VIX spiked as well. Remember, the India VIX before this was at very low levels of close to around 10, 10.5. That was factoring in complacency. Now that's out. We have a 5% spike out there. The cash market flows, the FIs and the DIIs, both of them sold in the cash market. The FIs sold about 2,000 crores. The domestic institutional investors went ahead and bought about 2,100 crores. But that's not all. The FIs have been continuously selling in cash as well as index futures. So those sold about 2,500 crores. And added 1,000 longs, but 14,000 short contracts is what they've added. So what does that mean? Their net contracts are now down to 1.6 lakh on the short side, with longs just at 14% and 86% exposure on the short side. Not only did they sell in cash and index futures, they also sold index calls in expiry weeks. So if you look at the option selling, 1.5 lakh short calls were initiated as against just 60,000 short puts, telling you that on the way up there is stiff resistance. Where is that resistance? Active options tell you 25,000 call and 24,900 call, both of them fairly active in trade, telling you between 25,000 and 25,050 there is stiff resistance that the market is expecting. And technically as well, that ties in because you have the 50-day moving average, which is a resistance, or the Nifty 25,056, a mark that we broke on Friday's trading session. But speaking about the 50-day moving average, for the Nifty Bank, the 50-day moving average can prove to be a bit of a support. And in terms of support, we have the 24,850 put, which is equally active, along with the 24,700 put, telling you closer to around 24,750 to 24,600. We will see some support for the market. The key is for us to hold onto the lows. 24,800 has been an important support. We bounced back a couple of times in the last month itself from these levels between 24,800 and 24,900. The put-call ratio at 0.7 tells you that there could be some support at lower levels and there might be a bit of a ban. The one stock that I'm talking out for looking out for today is IEX. That stock ended about 10% higher and then has exited F&O ban.
Oh yes, keep an eye out on IEX. Of course, Jeffries earlier this morning has also cut its price target now to 105. With the stock now out of the ban, interesting to see how it moves today. Mangalam, thank you for that update. Moving